Colossal question.
Why do we get anxiety? Anxiety can feel a little bit different for each person, but usually the symptoms are more or less the same. Sweaty palms, tense muscles, quick breathing, stomach aches, the shakes, and trouble concentrating, just to name a few. All of those feelings are certainly no fun, but there are two bits of good news about anxiety. First, everyone feels anxiety. From toddlers to grown-ups and everyone in between, we all get anxious sometimes. Sometimes when you're anxious, it can feel like no one understands. But the truth is, we all deal with anxiety all throughout our lives. It's a natural human emotion. Which brings us to the second bit of good news. It actually serves a purpose. It might not feel like it, but all that anxiety is really just your brain trying to help you out. It's true. Think of it like a defense mechanism for your mind. All those uneasy feelings you get when you're anxious happen because your brain thinks you're in danger. It tenses up your muscles and causes you to sweat, which keeps you alert and ready to either fight off danger or run away from it. Sometimes it makes us so tense that we just freeze up entirely, unable to move or make a sound, almost like you're stuck in place. These reactions are known as fight, flight, and freeze, and they're great instincts to have when we're actually in a dangerous situation. They can help us fight, flee, or hide from a threat. But the problem is, now and then our brains get a bit confused and perceive relatively basic fears, like flubbing a line in the big school play, as if they're life or death scenarios. Literally. Something like a high school play might feel scary enough to be life or death, even though there's no real danger lurking around the corner. All those anxious feelings are really just your brain overreacting in an attempt to keep you safe. So, if you have a big, important play at school that everyone's gonna see, you might be anxious the night before, even though there's no tiger waiting to attack if you flub your lines. So, next time you get anxious and feel your palms get sweaty and your stomach churn, just try and keep in mind, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just having super normal and, honestly, super annoying feelings that we all get from time to time. So don't fret. It's just your good old brain trying and failing to help. Better luck next time, buddy. What is mental health? Your mental health is all about your emotional, psychological, and social well-being. And it has a huge effect on how we feel, think, and act. There are all sorts of things that can affect our mental health. Genetics, family history, personal experiences, and many other things can have an impact, big or small. Most of us know that we have to eat right and exercise to stay physically healthy, but how to take care of your mental health might not be as obvious. So, how can we make sure to be mentally healthy? Well, believe it or not, one of the biggest steps is the same: eat right and exercise. That's right, not only does it keep your body healthy, but eating good quality foods, drinking water, and keeping active are all great ways to keep your mind healthy too. Another big part of having good mental health: a good night's sleep. Kids over the age of 13 are recommended to get 8 to 10 hours of sleep every night. And kids from ages 6 to 12 should get even more, between 9 and 12 hours. Another super important part is finding ways to handle stress. Now, we all get stressed. Life is stressful, but finding ways to manage that stress before it builds up and takes over is key. People have found lots of different ways to do that. Yoga, meditating, deep breathing, listening to calm music, or just sitting in silence are some of the simplest ways to help relax when you're feeling stress. But maybe the best ways to handle stress and improve your mental health is also maybe the most fun. find hobbies you love. Or try new ones, like reading, gaming, drawing, going for a walk, or playing sports, just to name a few. And just as important as all that healthy fun is making sure you feel connected to other people. That can be your friends, your family, siblings, or someone trusted you can talk to about your problems. And if things get really hard, well, there's people who are pros at helping people feel better. They teach people of all ages different tips, tricks, and tools to help them cope with stress and feel more mentally healthy. One of the quickest ways for stress to build up is by keeping it all inside. So don't be afraid to talk to your friends and family about whatever's going on. Not just the good, but the bad stuff too. It can really help. Why do we get scared? Every single one of us is afraid of something, whether we like to admit it or not. You might be arachnophobic if you're scared stiff by the sight of a spider. Or maybe you suffer from globophobia, the fear of balloons. Whatever it is that causes your blood to run cold, it all starts with your amygdala, two almond-shaped bundles of neurons deep inside the brain. They help us process memories, make decisions, and yes, spark emotions like, say, fear. Whenever you see something that scares you, like a big hairy spider or a big red balloon, your amygdala sends a signal to other sections of your brain, telling it to release hormones like adrenaline to heighten your senses and make you feel, well, afraid. This reaction is called our fight, flight, or freeze response. Once the amygdala alerts the rest of your brain to danger, you react almost instinctually by either fighting the danger, running away from it, or freezing in place. It doesn't matter if you're scared of a pop quiz or a prowling panther, your brain will still trigger your fight, flight, or freeze responses, just maybe with slightly different results. Okay, so that's what's going on inside our body whenever we get scared, but why? What's the reason we're scared of things in the first place? Well, for us humans, there are 5 basic ways our brains learn to be scared of certain things. Direct and indirect association, fear transference, intrusion, and inheritance. Direct association is more straightforward. That's when someone has had a bad experience that causes a strong fear, like being bitten by a dog. Indirect association is where some of the more unusual fears might come from, like, say, balloons. Maybe a big balloon popped when you were little and scared the living daylights out of you. If it scared you enough, it might leave behind a lingering fear of balloons, even though they're not actually very dangerous at all, just really loud when they pop. Fear transference happens when someone passes their fear along to you. Maybe your mom is deathly afraid to fly. It might cause you to develop a fear of flying yourself. Instructional fear is similar, where we might read or learn about a threat that makes our hair stand on end. Maybe you read about something in the news, or see something in a movie that causes you to develop a new fear. And last but not least is inherited fear, which are things we're afraid of that get passed down through our family through the decades. So, why do we get scared? Well, as it turns out, for a lot of different reasons. Fear is a complex emotion caused by lots of different things, from our own experiences to those of our cave ancestors a long time ago. So, if you or someone you know is scared of something that might seem a little strange, remember, fear works in funny ways. Just ask someone with hippopotamonstrosesquiptaliaphobia, the fear of long words. That's just cruel. Why do we scream when we're scared? When you're afraid, your body automatically goes into survival mode. Think about the face you make when you're afraid. Your eyes get big and wide and dart back and forth, which makes you much more alert to everything around you, including potential threats. You'll also start breathing much faster through your nose, which gives you a heightened sense of smell when sensing danger. Fear, just like any other emotion, causes you to make facial expressions, which in turn can affect your emotions. In the same way that smiling can make you happier or frowning can make you sad, making a scared face will heighten all your senses so that you're extra alert for any danger. So that's why we get scared and make a frightened face, but why do we scream? Well, experts don't know for sure, but the leading theory is that it serves as a big, loud defense against danger. You see, it's a little bit like a human car alarm. If someone is in danger or scared and they scream, they're sending out a distress signal that could either cause someone to take notice or scare away whatever danger lurks. In fact, studies have shown that the more intense, wild, and animalistic a scream is, the harder it is for other people to ignore. So, why do we scream? To help keep us safe, even if the stakes aren't all that high. Why do we get homesick? Most of us know what being homesick is like. A glum, grieving feeling in your gut that brings you down and makes you miss the comfort of home. It's all caused by your brain's need for patterns, routines, and attachments. Think about it. Once your brain gets used to certain things, like people, places, smells, and customs, it can get really thrown off when you switch these things up. So it's less about a literal house and more about the security and comfort of home. Surprisingly, unlike most other ailments, homesickness seems to be a relatively new thing for humans. The first known case wasn't ancient or even medieval. It was in 1688. That's the year that a Swiss medical student named Johannes Hofer became the first person to identify the illness of missing home. He studied the case of a man who moved from his lifelong home in the city of Bern to study in Basel, which was over 60 miles away. The poor guy became depressed, developed a fever, and seemed to be on death's doorstep. He was told to return home, and by the time he got there, he was completely recovered. Johannes Hofer's explanation? He believed that spirits inside Hofer were so fixated on getting back home that they exhausted his body. Now, with his newly minted malady, Hofer needed a name. So he invented the word nostalgia by combining two Greek words, nostos, meaning homecoming, and algia, meaning pain. Okay, so that's where it started, but why? What caused people to suddenly start feeling homesick? Well, it sprouted up as a disease during a period of mass migration when millions of people were starting to travel more easily all around the world. Now, for the first time in history, people could move from place to place much more easily. But it still wasn't easy to remember home. No pictures, no phone calls, and definitely no internet. Moving usually meant leaving everything you know behind. From the late 1600s until the beginning of the 20th century, being homesick was considered such a serious condition that it could actually kill you if it went untreated. But as the decades have passed and it's become easier and easier to stay in touch, homesickness has become a much less serious concern and is no longer considered a full-fledged disease. After all, it's much simpler to stay connected to your community from a distance once pen and paper turned into voicemails and video calls. Even still, people all across the planet still know that gut-wrenching feeling well. So, how do you cure the homesick blues? Well, most experts today agree when you feel safe, connected, and seen by the people around you, it makes it much easier to feel at home wherever you are. Or, to put it another way, try and make yourself at home. Why do we get embarrassed? We have all kinds of different reactions when we're embarrassed. Maybe our face feels hot and our eyes well up. Others might just smile or try and hide their face at all costs. But it's all the same cringy sensation. There's lots of different things that embarrass us. Unwanted attention, failing at an easy task, rejection, hurting someone else's feelings, or awkward encounters, just to name a few. Whatever the cause, it's all the same thing, embarrassment. I think it's safe to say that most of us have a pretty good idea what it feels like to get embarrassed about something. But why? What causes us to feel embarrassment? And more importantly, why do humans even get embarrassed in the first place? Well, no one can say for certain exactly why we get embarrassed, but experts have a few strong theories. Some believe that embarrassment is a way for us to show others that we know we messed up. Other experts have tried to understand why we get embarrassed by breaking it up into 4 basic types of embarrassment that we feel. Faux pas, which are socially awkward situations, accidents like spilling juice on your pants, mistakes like a poorly timed fart, and failure to perform a duty or moral obligation, like getting caught in a lie. So that's why we get embarrassed, but how? How does it actually work inside our bodies? Well, the feeling of embarrassment all comes from a small, thumb-sized lump of tissue deep inside the front right area of the brain, called the pregenual anterior cingulate cortex. This part of your brain helps control lots of your automatic bodily functions, like breathing, sweating, making sure your heart beats. Pretty important stuff. But that part of the brain also helps control your emotions and decision-making too. So, people who have a slightly smaller pregenual anterior cingulate cortex tend to be less embarrassed. It seems the smaller that section of the brain gets, the less embarrassment any of us feel. So, what does that mean? Well, it means that no matter how you react in embarrassing situations, it really just comes down to what's going on inside your brain. Like, literally. So if you happen to be someone who's always embarrassed by everything, or someone who can't seem to be embarrassed by anything, just try to remember, it's all in your head. Why do we get dizzy? Turns out that dizzy, nauseous feeling you get actually has less to do with your belly and a lot more to do with your ears. It's true. You see, your ears are actually the most important part of helping you keep your balance. Deep inside your ears, past the earwax and past the eardrums, sits 3 special organs called the vestibular system. The thin, loopy-looking, fluid-filled organs in your ear respond to every movement your head makes. As the fluid moves around, it bends little hairs that send signals to your brain. This lets your brain know where your head is moving. Instantaneously, the brain relays that info to your eyes so they can brace for whatever movement you make and keep your vision from shaking like a camera. The vestibular system might be the most important part, but it's not just your ears that keep you balanced. Your eyes also help sense where you're moving and in what direction. Your skin also helps us understand which parts of our body are touching the ground, if any, and your brain helps relay messages between all the different parts of your body in a split second so that we don't even notice. Okay, so that's how our ears, brain, and body work together to help us move around, but what about dizziness? What actually causes our balance organs to get thrown off enough that the world seems warped? Well, that has to do with all that fluid inside the vestibular system. You see, whenever we spin around super fast, the fluid inside our ears moves around really fast too, trying to keep us balanced. But when you suddenly stop spinning, the fluid in your balance organs keeps on moving, sending signals to your brain as if you're still in motion. This clashes with other signals from the rest of your body that are telling your brain that you've stopped moving. That's why it's so hard to find your balance when you get dizzy. Your brain is getting mixed signals and doesn't quite know which way is up. Literally. Of course, plenty of people get dizzy from things other than spinning around in a circle. Motion sickness can be caused by much simpler movement, like flying in a plane, riding on a boat, or reading in a car. In those cases, your brain is still getting mismatched signals. When boats bob around in the water, you can't see the movements, only feel them. Or when you're reading in the back seat, the book's movement doesn't match the car's. On a plane, you might feel all kinds of turbulence, but you can't see it. All of these different disconnects can cause mixed signals in your brain, which makes you feel dizzy and sick. Sometimes so sick you can even throw up. So, moral of the story? Spin with caution. Otherwise, you'll be putting the sick in motion sickness. Yuck. Why do we lose our baby teeth? Our first set of teeth, which we call our baby teeth, started growing while you were still inside your mom's belly. Even though babies are born with nothing but gums showing, turns out the teeth are already there, waiting to poke their way out. Once a baby is about 6 months old, the first teeth start to show. It can be painful, but it's necessary. We need our teeth to bite and mash up our food. That's why babies just drink milk and eat formula until they have big enough teeth to chew. Most people have 20 baby teeth, 8 incisors in the front of the mouth that help you bite, 4 pointy canine teeth to tear food apart, and 8 molars in the back of the mouth that help us chew things up. Around age 6, your first baby teeth might start to loosen and fall out, and brand new teeth might start popping through the gums in the back of the mouth. By around age 12, most kids have lost all their baby teeth. That's around the age that your jaw grows big enough to support some grown-up teeth, and a few more of them too. When our 20 baby teeth fall out, they're replaced by 32 new adult teeth. There are still just 8 incisors and 4 canine teeth, but 4 more molars, giving us 12. Adults also have 8 extra premolars, which makes for a much bigger mouthful of teeth. Okay, so we replace our little baby teeth with bigger teeth as our mouth and jaw grow. Makes sense, but how does it work? Why do teeth become loose and fall out of our mouths? Well, that's because our teeth are held in place by roots, much like how a tree stays firmly in the ground. Those roots keep our teeth firmly in place, but they're also why we lose them when the time is right. You see, as your new permanent adult tooth forms, it pushes on the roots of the baby tooth and slowly dissolves them using special bone cells called odontoclasts that absorb the old roots into the new forming tooth. When those baby teeth roots get short and weak enough, the tooth starts to loosen and wobble and eventually break off and fall out. Before long, the adult tooth will poke through the gums in the gap left by the baby tooth. Those new adult teeth have much stronger and much longer roots than their baby counterparts, since they're never meant to leave your mouth. Now, whether or not they do might come down to how well you treat them, but that's a whole other episode.